fade. Stand by one.
Here we go.
You can hide that window now. Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
Welcome to OzByDrone. The music didn't fade for some reason. I don't know why. The rest of the console is working, just not the audio fader today. But it doesn't matter. Welcome to OzByDrone.
Welcome to the show, everybody.
I'm Greg. He's John.
I'm John.
And we've got another person waiting in the wings who he's not muted. So if you talk, you will come through. But you tell me when you want to inflict your presence. But before we do anything, welcome to the show. I want to share, I've got a hot late news item. This hasn't made our official run sheet today. John doesn't know what it is. Lloyd doesn't know what it is. So let's get into it. Now, we've got a video loaded up. I'll get my producer to go and put that one on the screen. This is a news story straight out of Australia. Let's get the video ready. Not that one, the zero. Is that the zero? There we go. And we have no audio. This was all working and tested.
When you turn the music audio down, maybe.
I did. I turned it off. Oh, no, that was a different one. But
that might be it.
No, that's working again now. Stand by one.
It's wire trash.
So anyway, here we are again. Another version of Wirecast, perhaps, you may ask. Lots been happening. We're in lockdown here in Sydney, big time. And I mean, I've been lucky to be able to fly. I've been flying from home. And I think the news story, from what I can gather, there's going to be more and more people flying. They're using it for all sorts of things now for COVID response, which would you believe? So I'm making a guess at that one. And, you know, everyone, looking at our news stories today, as we come through, I can see some pretty exciting ones, which is good. How you going, Greg?
Okay,
back with us?
Don't know if it's fixed, but we're going to try it one more time. Here we go. Let's play the video. Oh, this is going to be a very boring show today. Look, let me tell you what was happening over here. So this is, put the video back up. I'll talk over the top of it. This is only in Australia. And there was someone who's sitting inside a COVID hotel, locked down, and they wanted cigarettes.
Yeah, that one.
So only in Australia, someone would do drone delivery of cigarettes up to the balcony of the hotel room in question, and that was the result.
Does it constitute a COVID breach?
It does. It's a quarantine breach. So you're not meant to have any contact to the outside world. I can't remember the exact amount that they were fined, but it was around the tune of $1,500.
Yep.
I can't remember the exact amount, but it's close enough to that. So there you go. The other thing is they're also got CASA investigating, so they're trying to find the drone pilot as well. I don't know if they've got any data from Aeroscope or anything else, but they're certainly investigating that. I'm waiting to see if John was going to say anything else. I'm having one of those days.
Actually, I'm just sort of thinking it through myself. So roll the news.
Okay. Everything that could possibly go wrong today is, and in fact, title is not running. There you go. Let's just go to our first news story. No, let's do this. Let's go to the person who's sitting in the room in the side and say hello to our surprise guest. Hello. Okay. And we've got no audio from him either. Nope. No audio from our guest. In the rendezvous tool that you've got in the background there, click to make sure it's coming from the right microphone. I know it's this time I can actually say conclusively, I know that the problem is not Wirecast because we've actually got John and Lloyd coming in audio-wise from there, and you should come in as well. We can reconnect it. Yeah, try that. Go and do that. Who knows what? It's not going to hurt.
Okay.
It's going to be one of those days.
Well, you can roll the other clip. Greg, roll the first story with the look inside McGregor's new pub. I'm keen to see that one. I haven't seen that yet.
Let's do that one. So without further ado, here is our first news story. So take a look inside this new pub. We've all seen new one-shot fly-through videos by now. Former two-division UFC champion Conor McGregor has used this to market his new pub called the Black Forge. Let's have a look. The audio's working for this one. This is a little bit better. So for those who don't know, Conor McGregor is a UFC type dude. He's into the martial arts, but he's also a pub owner. Just listen to the audio as we go through. We're hearing some great audio overlays on top of the flight. Look at this, getting so close to that. And I thought he was almost going to go under the beer taps for a moment there.
Yeah.
Oh, do I hear a Ken?
Break it down one time.
Oh, we've got Ken.
I see Grumpy dancing. Grumpy, are you getting jiggy with it?
I'm getting jiggy.
Now, the question I have, mixing drones and alcohol. I mean, John, isn't it 8 hours bottle to throttle?
Yes, that's right. And 8 minutes from throttle to bottle.
I'm curious, Ken, let's bring Ken on for a minute. Have you ever heard that term before? 8 hours bottle to throttle?
Yeah. I mean, government agencies love things that rhyme to remind them of stuff.
Yeah, and we've definitely got those in Australia. But welcome to Ken Heron. How you doing, my friend?
Pretty good. Brought my own applause. Oh, thank you. You're too kind. You're too kind. Yeah.
Hang on, we need some more.
John, are you on your houseboat?
I am most certainly, sir. Hang on, I'll just give you a little look out the window.
Yeah, what a perfect COVID getaway.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm actually in the master room at the moment because my wife's doing some Zooming from the other room. But yeah, it is perfect. The best part about this, Ken, is that I have like a heli deck on the roof. So I can, because I'm out isolated in the water on a mooring, I can just fly anytime I like. It's an absolute, that's the joy. Great fun.
Yeah. By the way, that was Grumpy's dog. I can see him in the other screen.
Trying to swat the dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just by way of a quick explanation, we did have a guest that was going to be with us today, and we've had a bad trot of guests. This person was unable to join us today for medical reasons. And literally a minute before I was going on air today, Ken called me up on Skype and said he had some news. And I said, do you want to tell me now, or would you like to come in and share whatever this news is live? So, Ken, let's find out what your news is.
Well, I was going to share this on my show, but it's not a secret. You can kill the hokey music. This is actually kind of serious. I've been invited by the FAA to represent the entire drone hobby in a monthly roundtable via Zoom on droning safety culture, and that starts in mid-August.
That's cool.
That is incredible. That is a really, really good kind of thing to happen.
Yeah. I feel a great responsibility to be able to represent everyone and give a voice to the concerns that may pop up. Now, I don't know how many weeks I'll last there because, it's me.
Where are you going to start, Ken? What's your first thing that you think you should bring to the table?
I don't know. I haven't had a meeting yet. So first meeting is in mid-August, and I think they just want to get the perspective of someone who is a hobbyist and a professional as well, but I still fly for fun and everything. I want to give them that perspective,
Well, congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you'll do a great job representing those of us, because with you see all the people in your chats every week, and you cover the plethora from the that's a big word, I know. But you cover the gambit of all types of drone flyers, hobbyists, professionals, camera drones, FPVs, and you cover all that on your show. And you hear enough of us gripe about stuff that you'll at least be able to give a good overall representation.
Yeah, and feel free to contact me if you have any true concerns. Like if you want me, let me know, let them know anything. I again, I haven't had a meeting yet, so I don't know how it's going to go.
Right.
But
can I give you a couple of quick thoughts? Just knowing what I know about different people who are on YouTube, there's sometimes you've had your share of people who've complained about you from time to time. Now, you and I both know that what you see on YouTube is not what is necessarily happening in reality. And is that something the FAA is aware of? For example, you don't want to every time you're making a video just point out, here is my visual observer. Here is my takeoff place, which is so many meters away from it. And do the FAA understand that when they're looking at some of these videos?
The FAA does. I know this without even talking with them. They're not trolling the internet looking for violators. The only way the FAA ever finds out about anybody is if someone rats them out. But that's a good thing. If you have violators that are being idiots, we've seen some idiots, and they need to be ratted out. So
yes,
but no, I know what you mean.
They don't have the resources.
Yeah. Sorry, John. Go, John.
No, just saying that the FAA, like the caster here, don't have the resources to go through looking at every video. If it's brought to their attention for some safety reason, they might. But generally, that's not the way they operate. I know, same here. I think that's pretty much everywhere, Ken. So, I think it's just great, as I say, to have a representative. And perhaps sometimes when you are talking to them and they've got concerns about how things are done, your show is a good source of that, saying, well, video's not always what it seems.
Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I don't know how they're getting. I'm going to give them real concerns. But I could tell you, I was on the phone with this very nice lady from the FAA in Washington, and I asked her. I said, "Oh, so you're in the FAA building, in the main one there, in DC?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "Were you in the protest last year?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "That's when she first started. That was like when the protest was happening. That's when she started her job with the FAA. So that was her first impression. All of us out there with signs and saying, 'No remote ID,' and all this stuff in the freezing cold." And then I also found out that she has a drone. FPV makes her ill. Not the whole hobby, but I mean, looking at it.
Yeah.
Watching, that happens to you too, Grumpy, doesn't it? When you watch FPV, it makes you a little woozy.
Well, it did until I got to do a ride along with Doc Murdoch, and now I've got my own 5-inch FPV drone, the goggles, the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Great.
But
great. He's getting
like
there.
On your show, I used to get bored to death with the FPV stuff until I got into it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah, just watching other people do it, it could be a little vomit-inducing, but when you do it yourself and you can anticipate the moves and you're actually flying like that.
I got this other theory too, Ken, about FPV and feeling ill. When I watch really well done FPV, good flying, smooth flying, it doesn't seem to crop up either. Often you can, when you're flying yourself, you may not get sick. Sometimes watching someone else. This happens, of course, when you're on board an aircraft. If you're flying aerobatics, you don't feel ill, but you might be a passenger. So everyone's a little bit different, I suppose, is the thing there as well.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to doing this. And again, and I'll mention this on Thursday Night Live. Please funnel your concerns if you have any. I want to be that voice. I want to be your rep.
So again, let me give you one or two more.
It's going to work, even if they're going to ask me anything. If I'm just going to be, set dressing or whatever, but we'll find out.
Let me give you one or two more. The preemption of FAA authority, or in Australia, CASA, versus local government, state government, councils, and all of this kind of stuff. This is one thing that I think leads to confusion. How can the FAA support the drone hobby to help eliminate the confusion and make it a lot simpler to avoid confusion?
One word: precedent. We're gonna need precedents. Right now they've got all these guidelines and rules, but nobody's been prosecuted, as far as I know, that has made the news. And would that even make national news if some guy filming a real estate shoot didn't have a Part 107 and then got fined whatever $1,000? It wouldn't. It'd make local news, maybe.
And speaking of which, you just said someone doing a shoot, and we've had stories before about real estate people that have had Americans do something along the lines of, "Yeah, Jimbo, we got those tube socks. I can't do an American accent."
Was that your American accent?
But we've had so many cases of people going and shooting at drones when, especially in Australia, they had the guy who did it in jail for firearms offences, but they refused to prosecute under aviation law. Is that right? Is that wrong? Should there be a precedent set? Why are the regulators not keen to go after that?
These are some of the concerns that I'll bring to the table. Of course, drones being designated the same as manned aircraft. If you shoot at them, it's a federal crime. But I think
crude aircraft
conversation that I had.
Sorry. Yes. Grumpy, you're being very politically correct. Thank you.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. That's another thing. Well, I'll never agree with that. But anyway, it's always going to be manned aircraft to me. Sorry, FAA. I mean, okay. That's dumb. Anyway, it's all about education. One of their biggest concerns is the availability of drones to everybody. Walmart and there's anybody can buy them. Then you really don't know. All of us watching know what we can do and what we can't do. Hopefully, but little Timmy that gets one for Christmas and then thinks, well, I'm going to fly it to the moon. Well, little Timmy, you can't do that. But little Timmy doesn't know that. So maybe something, and have to include something on the packaging. Unfortunately, we live in a world where we have to put stick figures on soda machines with the soda machines. You know what I mean? Like, don't pull the machine over, you dumbass. That's what that sticker, the Mr. Yuck stickers in the United States. I don't know if you have them in Australia, but that parents will put on poisons so that little kids will know not to drink the Drano. People are inherently dumb. And so you can't legislate common sense. I'm always saying that.
Yeah, you can't.
But, you have to try, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing what it's all about and if I can help in any way.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I tell you what, Ken, thank you for dropping in and joining that. You're welcome to sit in the background. But before we do anything else, Grumpy has a new friend that he might like to introduced to you just to say hello. So go for it, Grumpy.
Well,
Okay.
I'm duck-billed the duck-billed platypus. It is so hard to say.
Are you being a
Am I scaring you,
ventriloquist?
Ken?
You
Am I
know what?
scaring-
That's pretty frightening. Yes,
Yes,
but
I thought so too.
I have some advice for you.
What's that?
Wear your COVID mask, and then nobody will. You'll be the best ventriloquist in the world.
Yeah, kiss off.
Look, there's a really simple message for you, Grumpy. Put the mask
What's
on the
that?
dummy.
Yeah,
Put the mask on the dummy.
I think
Just got that one.
the mask will be on the dummy.
Yeah,
There's
you're
the guy.
right. Yeah, the mask will be on the dummy. Yeah.
And Lloyd,
Well,
you
thank
said
you,
that
guys.
you said that the platypus's name was Tuckwell. Is that right?
Tuckwell, yes.
That's the
Tuckwell,
name
the
of
duck-billed platypus.
That's a very famous
course.
French horn player in Australia.
Yes.
Grumpy.
Yeah.
It's a plat of what?
It's a platypus.
A
Yeah,
pla-
you
a
try to
platy-
say that,
A plat of what?
platypus.
A plat of what?
Platypus.
I'm trying to get him to violate YouTube's community guidelines. Thank
Try
you very
saying
much
that
for
without
having me
moving your lips. That's the
Yeah.
real talent.
on. Yeah, right. See
Yeah,
everybody.
Duckwell.
I'll do my own applause line out. Bye. Thanks,
Okay.
you guys.
Right.
Okay. See ya.
Thanks for joining, Ken, and we'll get back to our regular
Just kidding.
program at this point. Just in case, right? So as I mentioned, the person we did have lined up today isn't able to come. If anyone else wants to join in, if we've got time later, we'll talk to you and see if someone wants to come on screen a little bit later. But right now, let's get into the second news story, which is this one. Quantum Systems Drones was founded in 2015, but co-founder and CEO Florence Siebel started researching the world of autonomous flight systems back in 2008, before many of us even had drones on our radar. The Trinity F90 eVTOL provides a modular payload system that helps this particular drone to fit into many industrial sectors.
Wow.
Okay, we finally got title happening, so that's at least progress. And that reminds me, before we get any further, let me quickly comment that OzByDrone News is brought to you by AirData UAV. Is your drone healthy, or is it about to surprise you on your next flight? Don't wait to find out. Discover under-the-hood information and review the early signs of problems before you take off again. Use the discount code OzByDrone20 for a 20% discount. There's a link below. But back to this aircraft. What did you think of that one, John?
Yep. Well, I got some good news for you. About a month ago, I flew that very airplane.
Okay.
Tom and Hamish and I went up to Newcastle with AviAssist and got our powered lift endorsement. And they use that for the conversion training. And it's a fabulous airplane. There's a lot to learn about the systems when you're going to fly something like that. I remember, for a good 18 months or so, I've been saying this is the future of commercial UAVs and what they can do. It's a very, very capable aircraft. Now, interestingly, it only has a manual mode where you can actually control it when it's within 20 meters of your position. So it has to have a flight plan installed. It has to know what it's going to do and where it's going to go. You can take it off and fly it and hover it around within that bubble, of course. But as soon as you want to leave that bubble, it's got to have a dedicated flight plan in. Great airplane, very, very smooth. Very lots of good autonomous systems in it. And they have another model which is even more exciting with quad motors. But so that, just to be clear, that's what we call a tri-motor, and it's a tilt rotor. So all three engines, one on the tail and two mounted on the wings, rotate vertically to lift the airplane, and then they transition for forward flight. Great airplane. If you ever get a chance, I mean, they're not cheap. I've got to say that.
Can I just qualify your comment about the term powered lift for our viewers who may not have heard that before? Is that basically another word for eVTOL?
Yeah, it is. It's a VTOL airplane, a vertical takeoff and landing airplane, fixed wing. Now, CASA, went through a lot of debate here about whether, well, if you can fly a multi-rotor vertical airplane, you can fly a fixed wing, you should be able to fly powered lift. I sort of sit on the fence there. I think there's a lot of good reason for that, but they decided to make it a separate endorsement. So here in Australia, anyway, we have 4 types that you can have on your license. One is multi-rotor, of course, which we're all familiar with. Fixed wing, which many people fly. Powered lift, which is a transitional aircraft, includes both. And helicopter, single rotor helicopter, is also in its own category. So there you go. But if you ever get a chance to have a fly, I noticed there is a couple of hobby, very cheap eVTOLs you can buy around on the internet these days as well. Like $100 or something. So they're a lot of fun.
Okay, sounds good. Look, let's move on. We've got another couple of stories and we've fixed at least some of our tech issues today. The next story, DJI have released a video providing a complete overview of a drone solar installation inspection in China. It's an impressive video. Solar installations, of course, are on the rise, and just a quick little thank you from Chris Hope. But solar installations are on the rise, but installations require regular inspections as sometimes panels crack or other components fail. Traditionally, such facilities have been manually inspected by a technician carrying the sensor. Now, I had to cut the audio out of this. Unfortunately, it was something that was triggering in YouTube. But certainly when you've got something that's as large an area as potentially a solar farm, if you can imagine walking up and down the gaps in there with a temperature sensor of some sort, or looking for cracks or whatever it is, this is certainly going to be a lot more efficient.
Wow.
And again, apologies that we don't have any audio there.
M300, I can see quite clearly.
It is specifically the M300 that they've called out there. Have you been involved in any asset inspection work of that kind of scale in the electrical sector yourself as yet, John?
Yeah, just a little bit. So much more domestic situations where solar panels are in a difficult situation on a roof where it might be dangerous to get up, and you can pretty clearly get up. What we were doing was flying them at night, and that was kind of interesting too. So right on sunset, you can see the solar panel change. And you can see the heat difference in the panel as well. Roof water heaters are the same, would you believe? But I think what you're going to see more and more of in solar farms this size is a lot more automated flights. So these bigger companies are trying to get approval to fly BVLOS. The aircraft is just sort of set up, ready to go, and it flies regular flights over the assets and just records it. They get a daily report, and you can see pretty clearly there on the screen now which panels have failed. Mm-hmm. And there you go, going through it right now using the thermal imagery. It's really easy to pick them up. And even there, I saw a photo of the Mavic 2 Enterprise thermal, R2K, and that would do the job quite nicely as well. You don't really need a high-spec thermal camera for that, but obviously the Matrice gives them the endurance as well to do longer flights. So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And we'll move on to the next story. But before we do, just commenting on that super chat from Chris. He said, hello, Greg and John. Sorry for not reading that out in full during the news story, but very much appreciate it. Let's move on to our next story. I'll click there and go back up. And we've got another inspection story. And this one, before we actually play the video, just looking at the shot that you can see on screen there, certainly a lot of thermal data in that one as well, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the main story, inspection of power grids as a whole, is becoming more popular with the ability to cover more assets and get detailed data. This particular footage shows some infrastructure being checked using a LiDAR-equipped DJI M300 RTK. Now, the data that we saw at the beginning, again, is showing heat-sensitive data. And the main part of the video, unfortunately, didn't have that in it today. But I did see some stills where they're looking at some lines and they can see hotspots in there very easily, very quickly. And having done work previously with OzGrid, the New South Wales energy grid in Australia, I used to work with them, and certainly finding those hotspots, definitely something that they want to do proactively in advance. And again,
Greg,
sorry, go John.
We did a case for this, and the power companies and even some other asset companies like this worked out that they would save the same amount in insurance on their workers that they would to pay for the drone program. So you realise here, getting a harness on and climbing up a high voltage power line and taking photos of it and inspecting at it, working at heights, the risk, and this is a dirty, dull and dangerous job that drones can do really, really effectively. And I think that in the end, you'll probably count the cost in the injuries that are avoided by doing that kind of work with a drone.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go on to our next one there. This one is interesting. This one, everyone's talking about climate change. Whether you believe in it or you don't, what we can agree is that there are some severe weather events happening at the moment, and they're never good at any time. But this footage may have an unexpected impact. The footage shows the extent of devastation in China after deadly floods batter Heron, which is the home to some 99 million people. At least 100,000 people have also been evacuated specifically from Zhengzhou alone in an industrial and transport hub. In this particular area, 12 people died on Tuesday after being trapped for hours on a flooded subway line. But why is this more significant than any of the other weather reports that we've looked at before? Well, facilities in Zhengzhou produce more than half the world's iPhones.
Mm.
So if you're thinking about getting an iPhone, there's existing stock right now, but certainly that was what brought this story to life for me. We've got some more footage of that as well, a couple more videos.
There's some breeze there, isn't there?
Yeah. We'll skip across to the third one. Lots of video footage about all of this happening in China, and it hasn't really hit the mainstream Western news that much as yet. Have either of you heard about this one?
Yep, sure, mate. Yeah, we've seen a few of these things, and there was a conversation the other day I was in on talking about just the UTM, the ability when you have a natural disaster to launch large numbers of aircraft to get a really good quick picture. See, what you want to do is when you've got this sort of problem, you've only got a certain amount of assets in terms of looking after people, survival. You just can't cope with it all. What you want to do is to get to the place where you really need to be. And one of the really clever ways, even a lot of helicopters won't cover the area that a fleet, I'm talking about a large fleet of UAVs patrolling and looking for those hotspots where there are problems. So it'll help really drive the drone industry again, not just in sort of being able to look at pictures, but to go way beyond that in being able to save lives and help people that are in trouble. So yeah, it's a fires, the same thing. Bushfires, floods, all of those type of natural disasters are going to be served well.
Yeah. Had you actually heard specifically about that in China, either of you?
I heard about, I actually watched one live. Somebody was filming it as this massive flood just, I mean, it was just rolling down the mountainside and people were stuck up. There was a police officer down there. He parked his car to try and block traffic. And then all of a sudden he's having to take off because the mountainside is rolling down right through the city block, takes his vehicle, and he just barely escaped. And I was actually caught it live one night. Because, you know, I keep late hours. And so
it's a
I was able to
thing.
actually catch it.
Yeah, it is. Won't be the first and it won't be the last.
Yeah. You know, here's an interesting question. Just, you know, I don't want to get too controversial, but I understand the theory behind changing in temperature. I don't personally understand the theory behind other extreme weather events, because they used to call it global warming, and you can understand that. You've got the dome of the gases and all of that kind of stuff. But how does that then affect the rest of the climate? I don't know that anyone's really explained it to mainstream media, and I don't get it. I'm not a skeptic or a
Greg,
denier. I just don't know.
That's a rabbit hole for me, because if you take out the climate change issue, because that you know, there's definitely some science there that you might want to look at or not. That's okay. What we talk about here is, they say, if these events are increasing, whether it's the Earth's going on a different spin or any other reason at all, that how you cope with it, how we gear ourselves up, how are we going to build our cities to cope with that kind of stuff in the future? That they're all the other questions that if we get bogged down in debating whether this is happening or that's happening, you won't get the job done. You won't get the job done.
I agree we need to make things more resilient, but for my own intellectual understanding, I'd love to know. Because if there is something that we can do differently, and, you know, you get a lot of people who are pro climate change beliefs and what have you, show me. I would love to actually understand it. But anyway, I don't want to.
Yeah, roll that video again and we'll talk about it.
I was thinking the climate change thing is easily explained. If every politician on both sides of the aisle would shut up, we wouldn't have all that hot air creating the climate change.
There you go.
Okay. Moving right along.
Nothing less. Yeah.
Moving right along, we're going to go to our next story. And just so you know, we've pasted the rendezvous link in the chat. So if anyone does want to join and come and say hello, it's a pretty informal show today. Jump in and we'll do that. But our next one, this is pretty revolutionary, I think. Want to get a quiet drone? No problem. Get rid of the propellers. Ion thrust is a propulsion system that accelerates ions using electricity. And so far, it's been out of reach for drone manufacturers for a variety of reasons. Now, a company called Undefined Technologies, a South Florida-based tech startup, is determined to focus entirely on designing and manufacturing a commercial UAV that would use ion propulsion as the primary source of lift.
Hello, my name is Tomas Privanik. I'm the founder and CEO of Undefined Technology. Today, we're very excited about having our first mission flight of our drone propelled by the air tantrum silent technology. For the last 3 years, I look into the fields of engineering, physics, and mathematics to find a way of using ion propulsion in atmospheric conditions. I finally got the breakthrough. Now, using that technology, we were able to develop a drone that is fully electric, it has 0 carbon emissions, and is customizable to meet a specific mission objective. I would like to give special thanks to the University of Miami, our investors, and our partners who have expressed their confidence in our technology and share our vision of the future.
So, John, have you looked at ion thrust before, and where does...
Not a lot. I got to be really honest. No, hydrogen maybe and liquid fuels, but it's it's amazing. I mean, I don't know the figures on it. You didn't talk about what sort of power it's got, but wow, I'm keen. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah. I mean, you hear about these kind of things in, you know, Star Trek kind of things, the ion drive, or I don't know if it's Star Trek or what particular sci-fi movie, but I've heard of that kind of thing being talked about a long time ago, and it's now coming to actually be a potential reality.
Yep. No, we entered Star Trek world a few years ago now. You know, starting to see those things, all sorts of things happening. Yeah, the iPhone. Exactly, Lloyd. Yeah.
The iPhone is the communicator. We've got the ion drive now. We've got the 3D printers going and making things like, what do they call them in Star Trek? I can't think. Replicator.
Replicator, that's right.
Yeah. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, we've
before the ion drive takes us all to another world.
Bang.
It's just interesting to have a look at it, but let's move on to our next one. And just a reminder, the link is in the chat if you want to come say hello. The next story we've got on the list today is an autonomous drone versus humans. There are many reasons for drones to be quick. The professional drone racing circuit aside, speed bodes well when you are searching for survivors on a disaster site or delivering cargo or even inspecting critical infrastructure. But how do you get something done in the shortest possible time with limited battery life when you have to navigate through obstacles, changing speeds and altitude? Well, you use an algorithm according to researchers at the University of Zurich. They've developed such an algorithm that can find the quickest trajectory to guide an autonomous drone through a series of waypoints on a circuit. The AI drone beat the fastest lap of 2 world-class human pilots on an experimental racetrack. Have a look at this.
Yeah.
Drones have seen an incredible rise of popularity, and quadrotors are in fact the most agile and maneuverable aerial vehicle known to mankind. It comes at no surprise that drone pilots strive to exploit this agility, push the platform to its limits, and measure their skills competitively at incredible speeds. And so, drone racing is born. However, algorithms struggle to keep up with humans. Even though we can model drones very well, formulating time-optimal flight through multiple waypoints has remained a mostly unsolved problem. We propose a novel method that allows to optimize a trajectory passing through many waypoints by using complementary constraints to indicate progress through the individual gates. The computed trajectories are benchmarked against 2 expert human drone racing pilots. Our time-optimal trajectories not only beat the humans, but do so with much better consistency. These timings were measured in a motion capture system. To the best of our knowledge, this is the first time autonomous drones actually beat human pilots in terms of speed and lap time. Our algorithms can compute such trajectories for arbitrary tracks defined by multiple waypoints.
So we'll leave that up on the screen, but John, how do you think this technology could apply in the real world? Is it something that maybe could be or your autonomous systems in a real world? How could it actually be used? You're not going to have the fixed rings and gates that are going to be non-changing.
But, you know, I immediately started thinking Skydio and their obstacle avoidance advancements and you know, some of the other things we're seeing. The thing about this is, I suppose, looking at it, is that when we're pushing tech, you know, this is an ideal place to develop it in term and by comparison. I mean, one of the comments that the commentator made there, which was really interesting, and it sort of stuck with me right away, was, you know, acknowledge that a quadcopter is probably the most agile machine that man has ever built. Now, that's interesting. It'd be hard to argue with it in some ways, in terms of something you can move through the atmosphere in 3D at high speed with autonomy. I mean, what else does that? What else does that? I mean, it's incredible. So what we see on a testing platform today, you couldn't begin to make a list. It'd be a big list about how that kind of tech would push other types of technologies in the drone industry as well. So yeah, we're looking forward to see what it is. I mean, it's a fun platform to start with. but they're just pushing existing tech even further and further.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way I look at it, I'm just thinking of this as you're talking as well. They've got one set of constraints there, and it's using AI based on those sets of constraints. You solve for that problem, but over time, making that into a more dynamic system that can solve for other things. I think it's, one step in the direction of more autonomy is a simple way of expressing it.
Autonomous systems are not just, limited to what we're doing. Take the classic case of the modern LiDAR in the car. So AI developed into a car where the LiDAR is looking ahead of the car. It can look at the car in front, and it can steer in lanes and so forth. So the simple one of when the car sees a ball rolling out onto the road, AI would suggest that there'll be a child chasing the ball. And so whereas that the threat, it's looking at a perceived threat from a certain set of circumstances. Now, this is all in very much we're talking into robotics now, and how the sensors and the AI works together in more of an intelligent way. But AI itself is described like that. So there everything, whether it's robotic trains, cars, quadcopters, spacecraft, everything is looking for that next level, so that we can build machines that use a human-like intelligence, of what's going to happen next. We get caught out all the time. Humans get caught out making the wrong decisions about weather and about other things. How smart can we make these machines to look at? Would the drone future of the future have this advanced AI, advanced obstacle avoidance, but also be measuring the barometric pressure and thinking, wow, the weather's changing. We're going to get wind from this direction next, and on and on it goes. There's just so many elements of it that's exciting to watch. Star Trek.
Absolutely. And I'm just having a look at a couple of comments here. Wayne King is asking, what about the drone show at the Tokyo Olympics last night? Did either of you watch that?
I missed it.
I missed it too. Yeah,
I missed it too.
I didn't watch it either. And it's funny that all three of us, none of us watched it. And I saw a video this morning stating that the Olympics had one of the lowest set of viewing numbers in this century, certainly, and probably part of the last century as well.
Yeah, look, there'd be all sorts of other reasons around the world at the moment why that would happen. Funny, Wayne, I sat down to watch the opening ceremony with the family last night, and I said, well, I'm going to go and do some work here, but when the drones come on, come and get me. I actually knew. It's funny that didn't happen because they'd gone to bed before it happened, but it was a certainty. There was going to be some tech involved with all of the cultural stuff that was going on. So yeah, I imagine it'd be great. I'm going to go and check it out. I'm sure it'll be on YouTube somewhere. So I'd love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And also a comment from Art who says he loves the band Fountains of Wayne with reference to Wayne King. Yes, good band. Let's move on. We've got another couple of stories to get through. If anyone does want to join, there's been a warning from Grumpy. You better come and join, otherwise the puppets are going to take over. So you have been warned. And we're moving on to an abandoned factory. I didn't see what. Feel free to join or the puppets will take over, yeah. An abandoned factory. Now, this one is a video that came from Ken. Ken went on a joyride through an abandoned factory with a drone and recorded the extraordinary journey. No, it wasn't our Ken. This is Ken Jancoaster. And it was a good video. It's not the same Ken, but let's have a look anyway.
You got to say that, don't you? When you mention Ken, you've got to say a Ken.
Absolutely. I was deliberately having a bit of fun with that.
Not the Ken.
Some good FPV flying in there. And this is a location where the number of views on this video is not particularly high. So as always, I encourage people to go and Check out the links in the description for the show today. Go and say hello to these creators and have a look at some of their other work.
You know what's just fascinating about this, Greg, is being able to hear the engines.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that.
Can you hear the shutdown when it goes inverted?
Yep.
I'm getting more and more used to this sound now when I hear mine flying. And in some ways, you can get some more information from the thrust by listening to the motors. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh man, that's incredible. That's incredible. In the dark.
We're going to need to, I'll give advance notice of when the next global fly-in is going to be. It's going to be the last week in August. Last week in August, and I would love for people to spend a bit of time to try and get the tech ready before then. Particularly if you're an FPV flyer. Come and talk to me and we can work out how to get your live flight into the show on that particular week.
Hear that? The thrust goes right off. The motor's almost stop, when it goes inverted.
Yeah. I was watching one of the videos on the Ken Heron crash video, and someone was doing an inverted yaw spin and forgot the old thrust. Needed to be turned down and ended up face planting into the ground. But anyway, there you go.
That's cool.
That was definitely a cool video.
I love that.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next one, which is definitely a local one. This one's straight out of Sydney and COVID-19. We've obviously got the lockdown. Drone footage above Sydney CBD and eastern suburbs in this video shows the impact of the ban, particularly on construction, with about 250,000 tradesmen have been forced to down tools due to the shutdown.
The COVID lockdown.
I don't know if he was close to some of those locations or if he's done it together with other people, but the lockdown doesn't say you can't go out. You can go out with legitimate reasons to do so, and working is one of those things, but not construction. Construction's been specifically called out as one industry they want shut down. News media is able to get out and about, from what I gather. Okay, we've got one more story today, and this one, as soon as my titles catch up, is a BV loss approval. So there we go. We'll press the button early. Israel's Highlander, which makes fleet management and UTM solutions, has hit a milestone. The company has received approval for beyond visual line of sight BVLOS flights in overpopulated urban areas, including residential and commercial zones in northern Israel. Permission was granted by the Civil Aviation Authority of Israel, CAAI, and it's the country's equivalent of the FAA. It involves remotely operated flights, programmed and remotely monitored using the Highlander mission control platform, as well as its UTM solution, which we're having a look at here on the screen. But it's good to see that some of this is actually happening, and not just BV loss, but automated BV loss as well. Thoughts, John?
Yeah, look, I the only thing I think of here is I'm reading the story and it says they're making the first ever urban BV loss approval. Now, yeah,
first in northern Israel, so it's not the first ever
in Israel.
Well, I have the first BV loss in my backyard. No, look, I don't want to. I think what we're seeing here is a good UTM going into place. So the thing about BV loss and managing this is that the authority can make sure you're not a risk to manned aircraft. So this is what this technology centers around. Because you can fly in an urban environment safely with much lower ground risk if you plan where you're going. So you definitely want to have an automated flight. You can take off with a package like that and fly over non-populous areas and people, places where there aren't people, provided you've got no risk to manned aircraft, it's definitely going to expand those type of things. So I think that's why you're seeing the concentration on, now the system that allows you to have BVLOS rather than the aircraft. Because, for a while they're saying, well, what if the thing falls out of the sky? And so we're not seeing as many fall out of the sky, particularly with the good aircraft, solid aircraft. So what's next? And that's it. So as they become, it's two parts. As the machines become more reliable and they're safer as they fly through the air from people on the ground, then bang, they might all have parachutes, that would mitigate that risk. But there's a number of moving parts in BVLOS, and they all need to come together to make it work. And so another step forward, it's going to be always this 2 steps forward, 1 step backward at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. We've just come up to the end of our hour. Before we do anything, though, just a couple of reminders. So we've got the Global Fly-In end of August, last weekend of August. Make sure you keep that in your diary. And if I just bring my calendar up here, I'll even give you the date. And this is going to be a slightly different Global Fly-In to before. We won't be the primary broadcaster. This will be Ready, Set, Drone in the driver's seat, and we will be sending him the video feed. So I'll be taking the week off, which will be nice.
Yep.
That is on the 28th of August, our time, or the 27th of August, USA time. So do put that in your diary and make sure you practice getting your video in. If you want help with that, go and reach out to me. I can certainly spend some time on that with you.
Now, just before you go out there, I'm looking at Grumpy there with Tuckwell. Say hi, Tuckwell.
Hello.
Now,
how you doing, Johnny?
Look, I've got to ask you, Tuckwell, being named after a famous Australian French horn player, do you think that the dummy sitting beside you thought about the mechanics of a platypus playing a French horn? Because I don't know how that works.
Yeah, that's why he's got his hand at my backside. It's like a French horn player.
That would make sense. Okay, thank you for that.
Hold the horn with your bill and use your backside for the other part of the instrument.
I feel like Tuckwell sometimes.
Yeah,
everywhere I look, I see a huge bill in front of me.
Well, I was trying to come up with, because the platypus is obviously Australian, and this is made by Axtell Puppets, who makes cemetery fader stuff. And I had the opportunity to get this. This is one of their beginner or starter puppets. And I thought, platypus is Australian. I cannot do an Australian accent. So he's like Mel Gibson. He'll talk with American accent, just like Mel Gibson. And the other thing was that I wanted to give him an Australian name. And I was going through famous Australians, and I saw Barry Tuckwell, and he was a horn player. And I thought of you, John. I thought, Tuckwell,
thanks,
that's a good name. And I had him named before I ever got the puppet in. So,
Barry Tuckwell is a very famous French horn player.
Yes, yeah, as well as a conductor,
Yeah,
but he's more classical, obviously, than what you or your brother play, obviously. But.
Yeah, that's right. Well, look, I look forward to Tuckwell joining us on the show. One day, perhaps we've got an S600 or something, and we can take Tuckwell for a fly. That would be fun.
Yeah. I don't think so, mate.
Hey, Tuckwell, tell us a joke.
You crazy?
Tuckwell, tell us a joke.
Okay, listen. Yeah, he has one that I gotta put him down. I do have a good joke though.
Yeah, you got to look it up on the computer.
No, I haven't brought up. So, well, I'll tell it to you now. The other day, Judy and I were getting ready to we got dressed up so that we could go out to dinner to celebrate our anniversary. And she comes walking out, and she was all dressed up. She says, "Do I look bad in this dress?" And I just looked at her and said, "Do I look dumb in this shirt?"
That's the right answer. That is the right answer.
We just went right over Greg's head.
I got it. Trust me, I got it. There was a joke that my wife was telling the other day.
No.
Do you want to tell that joke? I tell you what, I've got my microphone here. I'm going to point it and turn it around to my wife. No, she doesn't want to tell it.
No.
You send it. You just bring the.
Next week.
Never put the crew on.
Because it'll take too long to get it.
Yeah.
It was a joke that she found in a video file.
You send it today.
Next week.
Next week, okay.
No time to get it
Well,
up
that was
there.
fun.
It was fun. So a couple of things again, as always, if you would like to... Oh, here we go. I'm holding the phone up.
The kitchen tap's still dripping. Do you think you could have a look at that?
I'm not a plumber.
Well, could you at least have a look at my car? The engine oil light's been on for ages.
I am not a mechanic. Hey, how's your day?
Yeah, good. Neighbour came and helped with those jobs.
Oh, okay. Do you want anything for it?
Well, he said I could either bake him a cake or sleep with him.
So what cake did you bake?
I'm not a baker.
Okay.
I'm not a baker.
Okay.
Cool.
Look, as always, if you'd like to send in a video, this is where you can send it. Upload at gregkuhnert.com. If you would like to follow us on social media, that's where you can do it, at OzByDrone on the various platforms. And lastly, if you want to send something, 5/127 Princess Highway, Sylvania, New South Wales 2224. Now, I'm just going to have a quick peek in the chat room. Grumpy should get lessons from Agro.
Yes, I have watched lots of aggro. And what Thunderbird 6 there says, Gottle of Gear, that's actually, he's an English ventriloquist, and he actually did a special called Gottle of Gear. And that's one of the substitutions to say, Gottle of There, which is hard to say without moving your lips. And you suck at it. I do.
Yeah. I'm just having a look up here. Here in South Australia, lockdown, drone flight is not approved, according to Trevor Fuss, I should say it correctly. That's interesting because drone flight is not regulated by the state government. This comes to our earlier discussion, and that's an interesting one. Tradies are not happy. What else have we got over here? I think that's all we've got in the chat room for today. But it's been fun. We'll see you next time. Any last words from you, John?
No, thanks for the show. Great to see Ken drop in and say hello. And to our new guest, Tuckwell. Some really good stuff on the news today. So I'm looking forward to the next fly-in too. Look, I always love those. So stay with us, everybody. See you next week.
Okay, and Grumpy?
Well, I just noticed that Greg and John look like platypus eggs.
You'll keep.
Yep, you'll keep.
Okay.
Hey, I've got a puppet over here too. Can you put me full screen to my producer? Just put me full screen for a minute. There we go. I've got a puppet here too, but it wanted to do a nude performance. So,
Yeah, definitely been watching too much aggro.
Yeah, just before we go, great show. See you all on the next one, Metro Drones. Thanks for that. Very much appreciated. So enough for today. We'll see you next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye for now.
See you, everybody.